Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Faculty Fellow Spotlight here at the Pulte Institute for Global Development. I'm here today with a colleague of mine, TJ D'Agostino. TJ, how are you doing?
Great. Ed, how are you?
Great. It's great to have you here. TJ and I have gotten to work together very closely over the past year, so I'm looking forward to learning more about him. TJ, to start, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks so much, Ed. So I'm an assistant professor of the practice. I'm housed within the Institute for Educational Initiatives here at Notre Dame. I also teach in the Keough School for Global Affairs, and I'm a Pulte Institute fellow. My specific background areas is in international education, policy, and international development.
Wonderful. Well, first question we wanted to ask was, what might students be surprised to find out about you, or a fun fact, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if sometimes this is surprising to people. I'm the father of four daughters, the proud father of four daughters. So my wife likes to joke, blessed are you among women, with reference to me. So I think she's right. We have a lot of fun.
That's great. Well, pivoting a bit then to more of the academic side, what are some of the readings that have inspired you and influenced you in your work?
Yeah, tough question in a lot of ways. There could be a long list, but one that comes to mind is a book that influenced me a lot when I was a senior at Notre Dame, and kind of got me particularly interested in international development work. I read Mountains Beyond Mountains by Tracy Kidder, which is a book about Dr. Paul Farmer, who's a kind of a leading international development person that's done a lot of work in Haiti. So yeah, I think that inspired me to both get involved in development and eventually, getting quite involved in Haiti. I also think the approach that Farmer adopts that's described really well in that book and draws a lot from liberation theology, focuses in particular on accompaniment, and just kind of a radical commitment to the poor that I found really inspiring. And I've also tried to use this accompaniment way of thinking about my work as I've gotten into this field.
Thank you. Similar vein here, what would you say is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Well, I recall a great piece of advice from my first year of studies advisor at Notre Dame when I couldn't decide what I wanted to major in my freshman year. And he said, quite simply, just do what you love and what you're most interested in, because then you'll be passionate about it and you'll excel at it and you'll be happy. And I think that was actually super wise and helpful advice, both then and subsequently. So I feel really blessed to be able to work on things that I love and I'm passionate about, and that, I feel like I'm a lucky guy because I'm getting to do stuff that is just what I'm most interested in.
So I think building on that then, what are the things that inspire you most?
Yeah, I think kind of related to some of the book that I mentioned, and I suppose also to the work that I do, I've had the opportunity to encounter people in this field that are really just doing heroic work for in their own personal dedication and service to the poor and the vulnerable, and often at pretty considerable costs to themselves. A couple people that come to mind, I mentioned Paul Farmer, but there's an American priest, Father Rick Frechette, who works in the slums of Haiti and, just does some incredible work. Also, I've encountered just a lot of men and women religious priests and sisters around the world that are doing amazing work for children. And it's constantly inspired by some of the folks that we are able to partner with doing work on the front lines.
Great, thank you. Well, how did you first get involved in global development work then?
Yeah, so in 2006, I was teaching in through the ACE program, and my best friend from Notre Dame was doing a year of volunteer work in Haiti and ended up inviting me to go down and visit, and it kind of changed my life and was something that I became really interested in getting more involved in. Ended up getting hired by ACE in part to look into starting a project to support Catholic schools in Haiti. And that kind of took off after the earthquake in 2010. And over the past decade has really grown and blossomed into some exciting large scale development work in education, both research and practice. That's was a focus of mine for about the past 10 years.
Great. We've done a lot of work together, both myself and here in general at the Pulte Institute. Can you tell us a bit about that work?
Yeah, actually, so Pulte was involved from pretty early on as a partner of ours with Haiti. Colleagues from Pulte helped us do the impact evaluations and develop the monitoring and evaluation systems of the work that we were doing in Haiti. But more recently, as you know, Ed, we've worked together on this about a year ago. I joined colleagues from Pulte along with some other faculty from the IEI to apply for a large-scale $40 million USAID award called SHARE that is involved in doing like applied research on education systems in low-income countries around the world and helping to address some of like the top priority research questions and problems facing education systems using these like large-scale cross-national research projects. So we've been having a lot of fun on that, and it's been a pleasure to work with you. In particular, I'm working on like language of instruction issues and book supply chain issues that are pretty central to the quality of primary school education in many countries.
It has been a great pleasure on this side as well. I know I'm looking forward to continuing this work. And yes, it's been very, very exciting. We're looking forward to seeing what comes of it. So what work or research have you done that you feel most passionate about?
Yeah, a lot of the work I've done since I've been at Notre Dame, both on staff and then more recently as a faculty member, has been on like faith-based education in Catholic schools, and that continues to be a big passion of mine. But the work that we're doing with SHARE is not necessarily focused on faith-based education, but I am really excited. I'll just say a thing or two about the SHARE project that I'm most interested in right now. I think this study that we're doing on language of instructions transitions is just like so important and also extremely complicated. An obscene number of children in the world are learning in a language that they don't speak well. And it is really intricately bound to what people now call the learning crisis in low-income countries of just large numbers of children that learn very little for multiple years of school. But the issue is like super complicated because, there's these intense social, economic, and political pressures from families and from political leaders to learn these later acquired languages like English or international languages that are just so important for like economic opportunity and advancement, often for like social cohesion within the country. And so it makes implementation super complicated. It makes the politics of this super complicated, and understanding how to get this figured out and how to have students both get a strong foundation in their first language, but then transition effectively to being able to acquire the second language just remains like a major policy problem in the field. So it's exciting to be able to work on it and try to advance that.
Absolutely. So we've heard a bit about your journey now. What would you say to those students that we have who are thinking about this themselves? What would you tell them if they say that they want to make a difference in the world? Yeah,
I mean, I would encourage the heck out of them. I think it's one of the greatest decisions in my life to have that positive aspiration to do some good. I think they're starting in the right place. And I would encourage them to nurture that passion and not get jaded. At the same time, I think there's some like helpful, and a lot of students I meet now have like a helpful caution about being humble, being respectful, not being kind of paternalistic or assuming that you have all the answers. I think that's like a really important thing to adopt, like a disposition of learning and listening and humility. And also to, this is like the accompaniment stuff to ground your efforts in friendship and respect, so as to avoid kind of falling into those risks of being like neo-colonial or paternalistic. And I would just finally encourage them not to let that get in their way, because it can be complicated, but you can do an enormous amount of good, and then just like find a way to enter into the field, find some starting opportunities, like network with people and mentors and look for an opportunity to get your feet wet in this area and start learning. And it can be, you can do an amazing amount of good if you stay committed and stay humble and respectful throughout the process.
I would agree completely. So to close then, we'd love to hear more about your own work. Where can we learn more about it and see any of your recent publications?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Ed. So I have like a website affiliated on the IEI as well as on the Kellogg Institute, where I'm also a fellow, and all of my recent publications are up on there, and would love to have people check them out. And there'll be more coming, I think, as we start to get through these share projects and start to produce more of that research. That's going to be really exciting.
Absolutely, there's much to come, and we'll be sharing some of these links to different work that TJ has done, and you can look forward to more. So thank you so much, TJ, for joining us.
Thanks, Ed.